evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adopt a Youth Foundation Personal Development Session. And we are in for a treat this evening. Oh my God. Just a few days ago, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, well, before him, the Finance Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Nigel Clark, announced that we are heading in the direction of a digital currency. It is projected that probably in the next 10 years or so, we will not have the paper money that we grew up on for most of our life. So we have a digital currency being issued by the Bank of Jamaica. I know that NCB, National Commercial Bank here in Jamaica, has a platform where they have a digital currency. And we are anticipating that with the rollout of the currency in Jamaica from the central bank, the uptake is going to cause there to be a greater inclusion in the banking sector. Well, this evening, we will be looking at that, among other things, because knowledge is power. We want to be ahead of the curve, and we are really, really honored to have a director from Durham College in Canada speaking to us this evening. Ali has already been on a session with us at Adopt a Youth Foundation before, and we are happy to have him back. He is family, he is friend, and he is passionate about what he's doing. He will tell you more about himself as we dive into the first half of our personal development session this evening. Could you put some sevens in the chat as we invite our first speaker for this evening, Ali Hirji from Durham College. Greetings, Ali. Take it away.
Yeah, I guess I should say Wagwan, right?
Bless up, bless up.
All right. So thank you, everybody. So I won't take more than about 20 to 25 minutes. And I'll be talking today to all of you in very simple terms about the concept of digital currencies. Where has this come from? What opportunities does this bring to the youth, especially those who are trying to figure out what their next steps might be from an education standpoint? And then I'll tackle this very interesting subject that I'm sure many of you have started hearing a lot about, and that is called NFT. Now, before I dive into any of this, I want to ask you folks a question. What is Facebook's new company name? Does anybody know? If you do, drop it in the chat. I'll give you 10 seconds. A couple of months ago, Facebook announced a new name for its company. Does anybody know what that name is? I don't think anybody does. Well, if you Google it, the name that Facebook has come up with, thank you, Chris, big up yourself. The name is Meta. Where did this name Meta come from? The concept of the name Meta came from the idea of the metaverse. I'll say that again. It came from the concept of the metaverse. We live in the universe. The metaverse is another form of the universe. What's the concept of the metaverse? Well, let me explain it to you. Imagine, for example, you and I live right now on Earth. I'm in Toronto, you're in Jamaica, wherever you are in Jamaica, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, wherever Kingston, wherever you are. I'm in Toronto, specifically in a city called Oshawa. Now imagine I took the same concept of physicality, of space, and created a digital world. For those of you who are in gaming, you might be able to relate to this. What if I created a digital parallel to the physical world where you had an avatar, where you had a presence, where you had some money in your wallet, unlike me right now in Canada, where you had things that you could engage in, and people that you can meet, but do it from a digital perspective. Now, what if I could go a step further? And what if I could create your avatar or your persona in the metaverse, the parallel of the universe, and allow it to, for example, act on your behalf? Some of you might remember the talk that I gave the first time that I was on here. I believe it was August 7th, if I'm not mistaken, 2020. And one of the things that I had referenced in that, probably August 18th to be specific, 2020. Yeah, I think around that time. One of the things that I talked about is the role of AI. And I encouraged all of you to start thinking about how AI can help you and how you can support AI. And what was one of the things that I said? AI might be the new electricity, but it depends on data. If AI is the rocket, data is the fuel. Now, when Facebook has so much data about you and I, so much information about what we do, Facebook has the ability, for example, to predict what event am I likely to go to? What product am I likely to buy? What product am I likely to like? When Facebook has so much information about you and I, when Facebook knows so much about our trends, and you might wonder, well, I don't put anything on Facebook. Well, sure, but do you use WhatsApp? Boom, Meta owns WhatsApp. Do you use Instagram? Meta owns Instagram. When Meta has all of this data about you and can predict so much about you, why couldn't they infuse that into your avatar so that your avatar can act like you in that metaverse? What does this mean? So when you're asleep, for example, your character can still be awake. When you're asleep, for example, your character in the metaverse can still be doing things for you, meeting people, saying hello to people, buying things, selling things. So what does all of this mean? It means that number one, for today's youth, especially the youth in the Caribbean, especially all of you in Jamaica, if you want to get involved in this whole thing about digital currencies, digital realities, digital everything, number one, begin to understand the importance of data. Watch the video that Richard tagged me on Twitter, where the Prime Minister of Jamaica, if I'm not mistaken, is talking about how a digital currency is going to be rolled out. And he keeps talking about the security of people's data. He doesn't necessarily reference how the security works, but he emphasizes the importance of security. Why is he doing this? Because people have so much information now online that with that information, you can draw lots of patterns about people. Let me give you one final example, and then I'll dive into digital currencies. Let's say I was to give you a list of 10 people, and I give you the 10 different patties they like to eat. 10 people, 10 different patties. You can probably look at that and say, seems like Ali sleeps all day, wakes up in the afternoon, enjoys eating this kind of patty. But those people who enjoy eating a patty in the morning, they're taking a patty that is less spicy. Those who are having it in the afternoon want something that's a little spicy, and they're going for a drink with it as well. But now just imagine I give you 10 million people and 10 million patty eating behaviors. What would you do? Well, if you're me, I'd struggle with 10 people. But if you're me with 10 million, you probably wouldn't get anywhere, not in this lifetime, not in the hereafter. This is where computing, this is where AI becomes very, very strong. Recall what I said in 2020. Previously, we would tell computers what to do. Today, we give computers lots and lots and lots of data, and computers make recommendations. Computers make predictions on what is the next best and appropriate thing for us to do. Now, when Facebook or Meta has so much information about us, and when they determine to go down this path of the metaverse, essentially what it does is that it studied you for such a long time that it can now act as you. Think, for example, when I was growing up, my favorite cricketer was Shiv Narayan Chanderpaul, okay? And I enjoyed the way, for example, he took out the bail and he marked his crease. Many of you might be too young to remember that, but I know Richard remembers it, that he would take off the bail and he would mark his crease on the ground. I had no idea what he was doing, but I just enjoyed doing that. I was not even a left-handed batsman. I was right-handed, still am. But I still tried to copy him as much as possible. Think about how, as kids, you would have emulated Curtly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, in some cases, universe boss Chris Gayle. You do this because you can mimic their behavior in certain ways because you've seen it so much. Not only do you adopt their playing styles, you adopt their accents, you adopt their dressing sense, you become like them, if not a mirror image of them. Now with Facebook and Meta having so much data about you, the same is possible. See, in the world of AI, we have things like accuracy scores, prediction scores, that tell us how accurate our models are. Many models, for example, will say we have a 90% accuracy, meaning that we can tell you with 90% accuracy whether someone's going to buy something or not. All of these are ways in which now, in this computing universe, you're seeing a dependency on data. So step number one, for all those of you who are listening, if you're thinking about getting into this space, learn about data. Go to the basics, take database design courses, start with Excel and graduate from there to MySQL, NoSQL, Mongo, so on and so forth. You see, what's a database, my friends? A database is nothing but a collection of data. Excel allows you to do certain things, but you can excel beyond Excel when you take other kinds of databases and you can run different calculations on them, more enhanced versions of databases, and you can do more analysis. So the first thing I'm going to advise all of you, data and data analytics. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're not very good with math, go back to the basics. Get familiar with it, because all of these different databases operate with algorithms. These algorithms, whether supervised learning, unsupervised learning, machine learning, deep learning, all utilize statistical algorithms to do analysis. You want to get familiar with this, and you want to start with the basics of data and database. Now, think about all of this information that the digital universes have about us. Think about all of the power that the digital verse has today with all of the computers that we have nowadays. A few years ago, well, not a few years ago, but let's say 20 years ago, phones, like this is a note, phones were 3 times this size. It was a freaking lunchbox. You could hurt somebody with it. Now, with the development of technology, it's become smaller and smaller and smaller. And with smaller chips and smaller processor, you can do 10 times more what you were able to do 3 years ago, for example. Less of the size, larger the impact. Now, with so much capacity in our hands, the question comes, what can we do from a currency perspective? Now, why would anybody touch currencies? Why would anybody say, let's do digital currencies? First thing I want to tell you, a digital currency is not that you have your money in cash in the bank and you use an app to see how much is there. Let me also tell you this much, not in my case, because there's not a lot of money, but if you've got quite a bit of money and you went to the and you looked at the app and you saw that it says you have $1 million in the bank, if you went to the bank to withdraw $1 million, they probably wouldn't have $1 million to give you. For example, they say that if Jeff Bezos went to the bank and told them to give him all of his money in cash, they wouldn't have that money. That's a separate discussion. There's a term called ledger money, which I can talk about in my next session when I talk about NFTs and the circulation of money and the movement of money. That's a separate, deeper topic. But the first thing that I want to tell you, digital currency is not Samantha opened her app or Chris opened her app and his app and said, oh, wow, I have $1,000 in my bank account. That's not called digital currencies. Digital currencies gain their value and existence in a different way compared to what we use in paper cash. Now, please understand this in complete depth, because this is the foundations to get you into stepping into digital currencies. In the next 12 minutes or 13 minutes, I'm not going to be able to walk you through everything about digital currencies, but I want to give you enough of a framework. Let's look at the history of money, for example. In my historical research, if I go back even to the 1800s, for example, we had a system that was known as bartering, meaning if you wanted something done, let's say Richard wanted me to give him a haircut because he's got very long hair. And I go to Richard and I say, Richard, I'll give you a haircut. In exchange, I want you to clean my car. Richard says, that sounds like a fair deal for me. And people do it. This whole system continued for a very long time, actually. Even today, in apps like the Marketplace on Facebook or even on Kijiji, we do see people willing to do an exchange, a bartering system. Now, why is this an important example? It's an important example because Richard placed a certain value on a haircut. I placed a certain value on getting my car cleaned. And I felt that in return for doing his hair, it was fair for him to clean my car, and he felt the same way. What's the moral of the story here? Money, or value in this case, is anything that people believe it to be. Now, this is a transaction between two people, Richard and Ali. But now let's say you throw in Chris. Then let's say you throw in Caitlin. Then let's say you throw in Samantha. Then let's say we throw in more and more people, Clifton, somebody by the name of iPhone, Hannah Mullings. Let's say we add all of you into the whole mix and we say, okay, let's go ahead now and let's bring all of these people into the mix. Now we need different things. Clifton wants to get a drink. Ali wants to get something else. Samantha wants to get something else. Now it's very difficult to say, okay, if you want to get a drink, then you have to go and do this. It's very difficult then to create like values. This is where money comes in. Now, I want you to also understand, if you go back to ancient Greek, an exchange system was created using precious metals. And when I talk about NFTs in my April session, I'll explain to you the valuation piece. I'll explain to you how over a period of time value was given to different precious metals. But understand the fundamentals right now, my friends. Now, from Richard and Ali and that one haircut and car clean, we're now going to a cosmos or a society of 20, 30 people who have different needs and different requirements. Now imagine the same scenario, and you imagine entire countries wanting to trade on certain items, entire populations wanting to trade on certain items. The Caribbean may have certain products that the US might want. Iran might have certain products that Kuwait might want. This is where you start to see the evolution of money and exchange. And led predominantly, of course, when the US sneezes, all of us catch a cold, led predominantly by the US, especially in the 1970s under the Nixon government, you had the introduction of what we call fiat currencies, or what we call commonly, you look at the dollar, you look at the sterling pound, you look at the euro, you look at the dirham, you look at the rupees. Each country had their form of currencies, which was seen as value for value, depending on what you were buying, so on and so forth. But now in comes in this concept of money having exchange value, where now countries can start trading with one another against that particular currency. Now what you start to see on a global scale is that products gain a value against a particular currency. And the US dollar starts to become the predominant currency against which currencies are weighted around the world. This is why, for example, about 4 months ago, I had gone to Iraq. I have family in Iraq. And in Iraq, for example, if you want to exchange into Iraqi dinars, you got to have US dollars. I take, let's say, $1,000 in my pocket and I go and exchange it there. When I go to buy a bottle of Pepsi, probably costs like 30 cents, 40 cents when I do the conversion. But it's all based and driven against that US dollar. Because the US dollar, and this is through history of colonialism and whatever else have you, becomes the standard in many cases against which your currency gains value. Now, the second the US starts, or the US dollar starts to get overinflated, or there's financial troubles in the US, people are skeptical of the US dollar. And this results in other currencies, for example, either going up or taking a backward step and bringing the US dollar down. The whole measuring system against which we have currencies ultimately comes down to what? Trust. I believe that this $2 note is worthy of this Pepsi. Society has this agreement. It's formalized in the form of a pricing sheet. I pay it and I get something in return for it. And if economic patterns, such as, let's say, war or other things, start to drive the cost of goods up because it's difficult to access it, the US dollar continues, or the dollar or the currency continues to respond to those changes. What's the moral of the story, folks? Money really is anything that you want it to be. If we agree that this US dollar or this euro is worth this much, and there is general consensus around that, not like we ever had a chance, then you start using it. This is very important for you to understand as we foray into digital currencies, because there are three things you have to understand here. As youngsters, you've just learned three very important things. Number one, money is whatever we believe it to be, but there's got to be a system that's in place for it to make it work. Number two, in order for a particular form of exchange or particular item to be considered money, there has got to be governance and backing behind it. You've got to know how to roll it out. And number three, you've got to give people the ability to transact in it, to exchange in it. You see, think about this in terms of the history of how people moved from India, for example, to the Caribbean as indentured labor. A system was created, a movement was created, a process was created. If you look at the history of slavery, it's the same thing. A system was created, a process was created, people moved in exchange for apparent value. The same concepts now are starting to emerge in the digital world, where people are saying, interesting, a government has decided that certain coins and certain paper have certain value. What if I just created something in the digital world and we all believed in its value? In comes in Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is nothing but a bunch of people that are saying, listen, we have X amount of coins. Let's trade in it. Let's exchange in it. And its value is whatever we perceive it to be. If Richard wants to buy into the system now, he puts in X US dollars. More demand, less supply, the cost goes up, the value of that coin continues to go up. And any place that accepts Bitcoin as a currency, there are some stores in Canada that will allow you to pay for things in Bitcoin. Sure, then that's the value that we will take. What's the challenge that you have with Bitcoin and Ethereum? There's no centralized authority behind it. There's no government behind it. It's people. Now, there is an understanding of who created Bitcoin, and the blockchain system that is in place that allows for each transaction to be recorded is also pretty unique. But what's the key here? There's no governance system behind it. There's no government behind it. Now, governments around the world are saying, hold on a second, why don't we create our own digital currency? And what's the benefit in this? The benefit in this is very simple. Instead of going and printing, instead of going and exchanging and holding physical items, hold it in the digital world. Allow people to transact digitally. It brings down the costs of doing business to a degree. More importantly, what does it do? It brings transparency and visibility. You know, about a couple of years ago in India, there was this concept that was brought forward and an initiative that was brought forward called demonetization, where the government had decided that certain smaller value notes would no longer be in circulation. What was the logic behind this? People often pay in cash to avoid taxes. And it was thought that many people had lots of money in small denominations. If those small denominations now are worth nothing, what are you going to do with it? So people now had to declare it. People now had to come and exchange it. And in return, what did that do? That brought transparency, that brought visibility. Governments around the world are now realizing if we let Bitcoin and Ethereum do what they can do, People now are going to start transacting in a different way. I can show literally that I earned only $20,000 and pay very little taxes, if any. But meanwhile, on my Bitcoin portfolio, I'm making $1.5 million. I'm living like the universe boss. So the whole logic here now is that governments around the world are looking at how can we centralize the process via which people use digital currencies. And the first step is creating their own digital currency. Bahamas created the sand dollar. Jamaica now is also even offering free money to people to get started on this whole digital currencies pathway. So let's take a pause here because I've spoken for a good 25 minutes. I'm going to summarize in 2.5 to 3 minutes the key points now, because we've done a very high level bird's eye view on what all of this is. Next time in April, we'll go through actual examples. We'll go into an NFT marketplace. We'll go into all of these areas. By the way, I haven't defined NFT marketplace, which I will. Now, what do all of you need to do to get started in this? Number one, database and all of that, I've already said that. But overall, taking everything that I've said, 5 top lessons. Step number 1, read, read, read. Your government is going down a path of digital currencies. Your prime minister is pushing it. We've seen this happen in the Bahamas with the sand dollar. Start to read resources on this. There is plenty available to you, number 1. Number 2, get involved and get involved early. If there is the opportunity to be part of trial projects where you don't have to put in cash, but you have to put in time and user experience, do it. How many of us do game testing for 1 hour in exchange for $20? This is exactly that. If you're getting a little bit of cash and you're getting a little bit of money to do user experience testing, do it. Number 3, it is absolutely important that you begin to realize that not only is data and database design important in all of this, technologies that help the movement of money. The sector is called FinTech, financial technology. This is where you want to be putting a lot of your attention to. Digicel, for example, will start going into this area. All of your different telecom providers are going to start, or banks are going to start looking for new skills for people who can write programs that process payments, for example. Look and study, how does Square work, for example? How does PayPal work, for example? Number 4, when you're trying to understand digital currencies, know where we are today by looking at where we were. Read a little bit on 1970s and the Nixon movement towards fiat currencies. Look, for example, and study a little bit about how different currencies have come about. The biggest one that you can study is the evolution of the euro and how the euro came into existence within the EU. And last but not the least, understand that the metaverse and the whole concept of non-fungible tokens will stay and will take off. Just like we talk about, hey, do you want to meet in person or virtual? Please write this on a t-shirt. A time will come where people are going to say, do you want to meet in the universe or the metaverse? 15 years ago, I remember my dad dropping me to school saying, seems like everybody nowadays has a cell phone. I'm like, yeah, Dad, but it's expensive. 15 years later, it's become the norm. Everybody must have a cell phone. That's where I see things going. Non-fungible tokens is the last thing that I'll talk on because that will be my prelude for my next talk in April. A non-fungible token is basically a unique copy of an item in its digital form. The first time I got exposed to this was at the Icc Cricket World Cup this year, or last year. If you remember the game between India and Pakistan, which I've erased from my memory because my team was beaten pretty badly, Shaheen Afridi bowled a really fast delivery in the third ball to get rid of Rohit Sharma. What the ICC did was that camera from where the recording happened, the ICC took that recording and put it up onto a collection called a digital collectible. And now you could buy that digital collectible. So the ICC would go to Richard and say, Richard, do you want to own the actual copy of that recording? It's $20,000. Richard goes, yeah, here's $20,000. Yeah, give it to me. And he goes and he owns it. There's one copy of that kind. Now imagine I created a work of art and I gave it a digital life and I protected it in the NFT marketplace. There's only one copy of that kind. People buy it. You know how people buy art? They look for the original in the physical world. Now imagine you could find the original, but in the virtual world. That's NFTs. Yes, to some people it might be snake oil, but to other people, it is the reality of ownership and value in the digital world. So yes, sci-fi and all of these things, we're living it now. Yeah, the concept of Wakanda, we're living it now. Last thing that I'll say, a mentor of mine once told me is that strategy is the art of knowing what not to do. So there's one thing that I definitely know you should not be doing, and that is wasting your time. You need to start reading and adopting some of these methodologies and testing it for yourself. Next time around when I speak, I'll dive deeper into NFTs, into blockchains, and explain to you how these concepts work. I hope that this gave you enough of an overview into what is currency and why digital currencies are important to people today. I'll take a pause there. Richard, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Oh my God. There's so much to digest. When I was a child, and we used to watch some cartoons, and it said that in the future you'll have this hologram that you can look at, and some of those things are already existing now, and we are very close to some of the things that we used to dream about.
Yep.
Thanks, Ali. I'm going to open the floor for some questions now. If you have a question, use the raise hand feature or in the chat. I see Chris has a question in the chat. Do you think Jamaica has the capability to facilitate a digital currency? Ali, what do you say?
Yeah, very good question. Very, very good question. So I'm going to probably give you a little bit of a longer answer because it's a little personal to my heart when you ask this question. Firstly, as someone who has grown up in the so-called developing countries, okay, and often having to look at the West, especially Canada and US, as developed, let me tell you something. The Caribbean probably has better fiber and internet connection than we have here in the city of Oshawa, and I'm 45 minutes away from the city of Toronto. Number two, we still have in my city people relying on satellite connectivity. The truth of the matter is that infrastructure that I have seen in the Caribbean, now admitted, when I've come to the Caribbean, I've come for holiday, but knowing a couple of people who have worked at Digicel, here's one thing I can tell you. What was once cable and wireless and now Digicel, because of the difficult situations you've been in, because of the natural disasters you've been able to avert or you've been able to live through, these areas have a lot of resiliency and backup built into their core digital infrastructure. So number one, absolutely from a technical standpoint, the Caribbean and Jamaica has the technical infrastructure to do this. Number two, and this is again my opinion on it, if we look at examples from India and we look at rural farming and rural cyber, where farmers now don't have to carry their crops for 30 kilometers, get it weighed, and now they can take a picture and then get it digitally weighed, etc. Or you look at microfinancing in Bangladesh, there is not just the infrastructure, there's also the people power to do it. Because the promise of making a little bit more income and the impact it can have for certain people can drive tremendous amount of opportunity. So there is definitely people potential nestled within this place. Let me tell you something. I've always said this to a lot of people, and I'll say it again. It is much easier to get somebody to spend $1,000 than it is to get them to spend $1. You know why? Because that person with $1,000, Yeah, they got the money. And it doesn't make, even if they invest $1,000, they don't make anything on it, they're gonna write it off. But that person who's thinking about every dollar that they have to spend, or is thinking about protecting the dollar, that person is a tougher nut to crack. Here, people may not have the same economic prosperity as you might see in the West, but they have the motivation. And lastly, from a procedural perspective, from a government perspective, look, I know it's very easy for people to say, well, all monetary systems are subject to corruption and all of those things. Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be governance issues, but this is not unique to Jamaica. These issues are going to prop up everywhere and anywhere. With digital currencies coming up in China and Iran, you're going to have governance issues that are going to emerge. What the Caribbean has in its favor is the fact, especially Jamaica, is the movement of people in and out, especially tourists, who, if they start getting adopted into the system, ultimately what it will do is it will drive quick adoption. It will drive quick transactions in a local currency. So the potential is huge, in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Ali.
No problem.
Ali is the Director of Emerging Technologies at Durham College in Canada.
Yep.
That is just one of his titles. He has many different things that he's involved in. Although he's in Canada, he has projects outside of Canada, and the Bahamas is one such area that he's going to be working with. Or started working with. So thanks, Ali. We are going to meet up again in April. So we look forward to that. We're going to give you some more time there. Blessings to you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. We're gonna move over to our next speaker for this evening. We're looking at financial empowerment. And our next speaker this evening is the Assistant Manager for Partnerships and Engagement in Youth Banking Unit at Jamaica National Bank Limited. Shanna is tasked to promote financial literacy and empowerment to young people. And she has some nuggets to share this evening, and we are excited to have her. Good evening, Shanna Kaye Wright Vaughn. Over to you. Welcome. Put some sevens in the chat as we welcome Shanna Kaye. That's awesome. You.
Yes, should I wait on my sevens though? Okay, awesome. I see them coming through now. All right, great. Thank you so much. I was actually so much involved in that presentation just now, and I definitely want to be here back in April when he speaks more about NFTs, because that is the way everybody's going now. And as a financial institution, actually in the youth space, you know, I definitely need to know what's happening too, so that when I come to sessions such as these and the questions come up, I can be guided accordingly. So hi again, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Shanna. You can call me Shanna. All the other stuff is just there for pleasantries. That's fine. And I will be sharing a presentation. I promise to be as interesting as the presentation just now, because I was so tuned in, you know. All right, let me know if you're seeing my presentation.
Yes, we're seeing your screen. Positive Youth Development.
Yes, so this evening, I will be speaking about positive youth development, the JN way, and how that has pretty much been an element of our financial empowerment, what we have in store in terms of what we've been doing for youth over the years, and also, you know, what we plan to do, and some products and so on that are aligned to what we have been doing. All right, so let's get started. Well, before I dive into this presentation, I know we have a mixture of young persons in the audience. So I want to find out if anyone has ever heard about any youth program from JN. You went to a primary or prep school and you open an account, you're at a university or college or part of a community-based organization and has been approached by anybody regarding an account from JN. Anyone at all? I believe at least Chris Grant should know about JN Way. I know I believe some of our ambassadors would have participated in his sessions. Okay, great. Thank you, Jamelia. I wish I had a present to give you, but I don't have anything right now.
Don't worry. We will give her something.
Okay, all right, awesome. All right, so let me just give an overview of JN Group. So as was mentioned, I am representing the bank, JN Bank. A lot of persons would have known us as JNBS, Jamaica National Building Society. And what we have done in the past, in 2017 thereabout, it was reclassified to JN Group, Jamaica National Group. We have banking services, there's general insurance, health and life insurance, technical and creative services, small business loans, crowdfunding, loyalty program, a whole lot of stuff. Over 145 years that JN Group has been around, well before our time, and I'm pretty sure it will stick around long after we're gone too. We offer both personal and financial and business banking opportunities. And as I mentioned, we've been around for a while. Now, I believe it's Mr. Hirji, forgive me for pronouncing it incorrectly. He would have spoken just now about digital currency. And I must say that even at JN Group, we do have a company, I'm not sure if you've ever heard about MC Systems. They did a lot in all these futuristic technology details. We also have in-house a technical team in our IT department that deals with our ATM, our automated teller machines. And at JN, it's a case where you can bring your coins, you know that each year you should be saving your coins. You can bring your coins, put them in a machine. You don't have to count them out on the floor like I used to do back in my day. So you bring them to the machine, throw them in the machine calculates everything for you and tells you how much coins you would have saved up. We also have recycler machines where you can, whatever money you put in, if you're doing a deposit at the ATM, is that money that you get out. So you don't have to wait until guardsmen or anyone come to reservice these machines. So technically we are moving in the technological field as well. And that's just part of, this futuristic space that our 146-year-old company is doing. All right. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and I'll be sure to answer them at the end of the session, at the end of my presentation. All right. So in looking at positive youth development and how that ties into what we do here at the Youth Banking Unit, I wanted to give an idea of what positive youth development is. It's a framework that has been adopted from the USAID, and it pretty much speaks to young persons having healthy, productive, and engaging spaces, making healthy, productive, and engaged contributions, being a part of agencies, and having an enabling environment. It pretty much is about the programs, the practices, the policies that are in place so that young persons can really thrive to become their best selves. So you'll see here that in terms of our assets for young persons, what are the trainings that they're getting? What formal education, interpersonal skills, academic achievement, or self-control that they're possessing? On the contribution side, we're talking about youth engagement. So this space right now is an item of the positive youth development framework where the Adapter Youth Foundation is imparting information to us as young people. In terms of agency, what are some of those positive identifying factors that are stimulating youth? Are we able to plan ahead and set goals? Are we able to look now at what's coming up in the next 5 years for NFTs and digital currency? Are we learning all of these? And are we also having a positive belief about the future? That's our agency. And in terms of the enabling environment, what's happening with our bonding experiences? Are we getting support? Is there some sort of youth responsive service that's happening for us as young persons? And are we physically safe? Is there some amount of psychological safety as well? So that's the context of what the positive youth development framework is. And in essence, we at JN Group have been trying our very best to impart at least 3 so far of all the areas that are here. And I'll tell you how we would have been doing that in a little bit. So the first program that we would have been using as part of our PYD approach has been our JN School Savers program. Now, this program itself was launched in 2001. And I can say that when it was launched in 2001, it's a case where JN saw the need to connect with young people. The persons who are in primary school, basic school, high school. we wanted to really ensure that they understood that saving from a tender age is important. It's the habit of saving which really leads us to making great goal-setting decisions. It's also what would have assisted us to become, develop that sense of thrift as young persons. So the School Savers program would have started in 2001, as I mentioned, and I can say that I'm actually a product of this program because in about 2003 thereabout is the first time I opened my own bank account. It was actually with the JN, and it was through the JN School Savers program. So it is quite interesting that I'm here today presenting to you so many years later about something of this nature. All right, the next program is our JN Wise Aspiring Youth Program. Now, this one was launched in 2013, 2014, during that academic year. And this now promotes financial literacy to the more senior young people. So before, the School Savers program was for persons who are in primary, high school, and basic school. But for this one, now we're talking to those who are in colleges and universities. We're talking to persons who are a part of community groups, so the police, youth clubs, and so on, as well as those who are in TVET. So the hard institutions, VTDI, all those locations, they're also a part of our JN Way populace. And we also have a JN Ambassador program where we train, manage, and coach student ambassadors. Now, these student ambassadors, they range from about 20 schools island-wide. And last year is the first time we actually brought on 2 persons from the community-based organizations. And this year we're looking to bring on persons who are from TVET, that's the technical vocational institutions. So that program itself has been a staple pretty much for our youth team. We would have coached over 200 persons, 200 students since the program started over 9 years ago. We're actually excited because our next recruitment, which should happen in the next couple of months, will be our JNWay 10th anniversary. So we're excited to see what's happening. We have great things happening for the entire year. So if there are persons who are part of this session right now, you can see there's an email address. I'm not sure which side. There's an email address that if you're interested in being a part of the program, you can send us an email so that we have you on our mailing list as soon as the details are ready. All right, just a bit of testimonial from our JNWay program. Now, as I mentioned, JNWay has been around for the past 10 years, and our School Savers program has been around since 2001. Now, we are very proud that we have persons who've moved from our School Savers program into our JNWay program, and also persons who have now moved into being employed here at the Jamaica National Group across the entire group, from HR to in the branches to our youth banking unit to legal, wherever you think about it, we may have 1 or 2 ambassadors who've passed through the program and is now amongst us here as employees. So one testimonial is that teamwork makes the dream work. That was the motto. The program really taught me so much and influenced so much of my professional life. The major lesson for me, aim to make every moment count. Life is fluid. You never know where you are going to end up. Another one says, learning the importance of embracing authenticity and confidence while taking an active role in self-managing my brand is my most valuable lesson from JNWay. This allowed me to develop important soft skills and professional connections. I was able to consistently improve and maintain these skills throughout my roles on campus as a brand ambassador. Now, these are just some of the testimonials. As I mentioned, over 200 persons have passed through. And I'm talking about persons who are now entrepreneurs. We have a couple dozens who are employed to the JN group. And we also have persons who would have gone into other companies and they're still pretty much friends of JNWay and friends of the team itself. And no matter what, if a testimonial we ask them for, ask them to be a presenter for one of our sessions, they're always happy to stick around and be a part of the team with us. All right, so the next program is our JNB Wise Financial Empowerment Program. And this one, so I don't know if you realize, but I was moving from the kiddies up to the young adults, and now we're at the big people. You know, in Jamaica, we understand the levels. And while this program itself, which is our BWise initiative, it encompasses all the other programs, right? But this is where we really are talking to you now as the adult that you are. And we're telling you that there are 4 instruments that really can help you to reach financial freedom. Revenue or a spending plan, your savings, credit, and insurance. Now, with our BY's financial plan and financial empowerment, sorry, it's about encouraging you to understand and appreciate each level of the entire financial education process. It is your responsibility, is what we're saying. And in order for you to really take hold of that responsibility, I am going to use a phrase I just wrote down from the earlier presenter, was that you need to stop wasting time. You need to understand and take into your own hands your financial education. It is something that a lot of us do shy away from at times because we may think that, oh, I don't have any money. But guess what, guys? You don't really need money to start a financial journey. What you need is the understanding. What you need is the thought process to get it going. All right. And just a few tips before I jump into some other details about improving your financial education. It was just said, and it was so interesting that this is exactly what was just mentioned. Devote some time to learn. At least 10 minutes per day. You're on Instagram, you're on TikTok. There are so many platforms or pages on these platforms that share free information. Are we connecting with them? Are we finding out, okay, what's happening with Jamdex? Are we finding out what's happening with NFTs? There are free content creators who are sharing this information to us. We can devote about 10 minutes per day to learn something new. Watch those educational videos, read the articles, Google things if you can't figure it out by yourself. Someone out there, I promise you, someone out there has asked this very question that you want to find out. What is an NFT? Why is NFT a thing? You know, whatever the case is, just drop it into Google. Nobody else would know what you're searching for. Drop it into Google, and I promise you, somebody has searched for that thing before, and you'll get your answer there. So devote some minutes of your day and get some details in. The next thing I want you to do is to engage in conversations. This space in itself is something important that I'm so pleased that this conversation is even happening, because this is a space where it's not just about money now, but even the digital currency, finding about what's there for you as a young person. So engage in these conversations more with your peers, with your parents, with your teachers. If you're in accounting in class, nudge the teacher, find out if they know what's happening in the digital currency space, you know, so get those questions in. When you do your research, when you're in classes and so on, nudge the teachers to see if they know what's happening in the space that we're in right now. All right. The next thing too is to listen. Listen to the discussions on these financial matters and wealth creation, but don't just listen, start. Start a savings account, start an investment account. You don't have to think about, oh my gosh, I need to start an investment account with $10,000 or $15,000. Just start by putting aside some funds for the regular savings, and then you would set your goal that it's an investment account I want, so this is what I'm putting my money aside for. And when you save, ensure that you use the money for the thing that you wanted to use the money for, and not to braff. I'm not sure if they still use the term braff, but it's something that I will use there. And the next thing is to be disciplined and be consistent. Now, some of us are like, okay, I'm going to save for 1 week, and the week finish and you can't find any of the money that you would have saved. It's not just about knowing what to do, it's also doing what you're supposed to do, right? So if you know that this is something that you want to get in, if you're doing your research and you know that this is where the future is going with technology, ensure that you know and get involved and stay disciplined on your target. If you're saving, try to save 10% of your lunch money. Try to save all your coins that you get back when you go to the supermarket or you go shopping anywhere. Whatever you do, just develop that habit of saving, and you never know. All that, you know, they say one cocoa full basket, it literally is real. And the more you put aside, the more it is that you'll be saving. And speaking of saving, I will just dive into just a few of our savings products that we offer here at JN Bank, and particularly through our youth banking unit. Now, I believe there should be some persons on the call who are up to about 17 years old. So this is our JN Easy Save account. It is for persons who are 0 to 17 years old. You only need 200 Jamaican dollars to open this account, and you can use it as just as I mentioned, your regular savings. So $200 to open the account. There's a possibility of you getting your own ATM card. We have very competitive interest rates, and you can deposit and withdraw as you like. Some benefits, as I mentioned before, are ATMs. We do have some incredible ATMs right across the island. We also have 34 locations island-wide, so we are in every parish, so you can really be connected to a JN building, a JN location wherever you are. And we also have access to our JN online banking. Now, it is stepping into the digital space, and we at JN also have an online platform where you can do your transactions, you can pay your bills, and so on. The next product I mentioned quickly too is our JN Goal Saver account. And for this account, we're really encouraging young persons, and we're encouraging parents as well to think about the future. What are you looking forward to in the next 7 years, in the next 10 years? And how can JN really help you find your way for that? We developed this product called our Goal Saver account. And it is really to encourage persons to not just think about right now. We want you to think about the long term. We want to think about what you're saving for. If it's a parent who has a 1-year-old, in 7 years, your child will be going off to primary school. So let us not wait until the appointed time to figure out how we're going to pay the fees. If we have a child now who is in primary school, in the next 7 years, that child is going off to college. Are we thinking about the long term? So this is where our Goal Saver product has come in now. The minimum amount to open the account is $100,000. However, we at JN, we do have other opportunities for you to save up to that amount so that you can invest in this particular product. We guarantee that it is a product that is going to assist you in terms of looking at the long term. Now, savings isn't an overnight process. Saving in itself is for you to be encouraged to put aside money for a rainy day. And the rainy day may happen sooner than the 7 years or the 10 years, but what we're encouraging you to do is that have this in your back pocket just in case and when you're ready to use it. We do have some opportunities for you to get different items, and we usually tie a lot of our products to promotions. So you may never know, there may be something that could happen if you actually open this account. I mentioned earlier about our online banking platform. It's fast, easy, all your accounts in one place. You can see everything from your loans to your credit cards. Everything is on the one platform, which is our JN Live online banking platform. And as I mentioned, you can buy your phone card actually on there as well. I know a lot of young persons want to buy our phone credit, want to put on data. That is also on our JN platform. Naturally, you have to actually have money on the space so that you can buy the phone credit. Another product real quickly is our JN Partner Plan. I mentioned before about saving for a rainy day, but are we even thinking about the short-term goals? Now we are in March and school is coming up again in September. Our JN Partner Plan can actually assist with that. It's a short-term contractual saving product. You can save for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, or 1 year. The opening amount is $1,000 and you make deposits of $1,000 per week, or you can make deposits of, well, you can choose between weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly to make your deposits to this account. There is a small amount of interest that you get back on this account, and it also encourages the habit of saving. All right, and that's it. If there are any questions, we would love for you to contact us at schoolsavers@jngroup.com or jnway@jngroup.com. We are on Instagram at jnway, and here is one of the phone lines that you can actually get us at 906-5343. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Shanna. That was really a packed presentation. A lot of good stuff, a whole heap of good stuff. I see Chris in the chat has a question here. Are you leaving to supply information about the 2022 Joint School Savers Scholarship? Well, you know, Chris Grant is from Scholarship Jamaica, so that's a theme thing. You want to know about scholarship, right? So if we go on the website, we'll be able to get that information.
Well, the information is not yet on the website. Chris, I believe I need to get your contact details because we're waiting on the PEP results to be sorted and everything. Usually our scholarships happen in the summer period. We do have our tertiary scholarship though, which happens in May, June thereabout. But as soon as we have the information, Chris, if you can just send me a direct message, I'll be sure to pass it on to you because I know you are the scholarships JA boss.
All right. Earlier, you mentioned the ambassador program. Could you just spend a little bit more time and say, if someone wants to be an ambassador, what is it that they will be doing? On a call, I'm looking in the chat, and I know we have high school here. We have a number of persons in university on the chat. I can see some are final year, final semester, some first year, and so forth. Okay. What exactly would a Jane ambassador do, and what are the benefits? So if Daniel wants to become a Jane ambassador, what does he do, and what are the benefits?
All right, so as a Jane ambassador, one of the first things that you will do is literally rep JN. And what that means is that you will be required to wear a JN branded shirt for sessions such as these. And we would have been in the virtual space, so persons would have been repping JN in their shirts. Back in the day, pre-COVID, we'll have persons repping JN on their campus, wearing their shirts, and so on. The other end too.
Well, bro got fly the gate, you know, so we'll be out.
Well, let us see what happens come September. Let us see what happens come September. All right. So in terms of repping the brand on campus, it's pretty much being that person who anyone can come to and find out what's happening with JN for youth. So if it's a case where you have a sponsorship, you go to our JN rep. If it's a case where you want to open an account, they are pretty much your go-to person on campus. The ambassador is required to meet a target per month. So they are required to be, I wouldn't say friendly, but they have to be very sociable. So they have to interact with a lot of persons. And when I say a lot of persons, I'm talking about going out and meeting persons, even in space like this, to say that, hi, I am Shanna Wright. I am a Jane ambassador, and I'd love to find out if you have a Jane account. Are you interested in saving? What's your long-term plan? Do you have online banking? That sort of thing is what they're required to do. And the good thing is that they receive a monthly stipend, so it's not free work. Yes, money is involved. There is a monthly stipend. You do get priority listing for our summer work program, for our internships. And you also get access pretty much to JN itself. So a few years ago, we would have had persons sitting, having dinner with Mr. Earl Jarrett, who is our CEO, getting to meet our managers all the time. They have direct access to us as our youth banking officers. Yes, so it's almost, they're pretty much a standout in the university space. And when, oh, listen, Brianna Hanson is an ambassador and she's online. I don't know if you can give me a minute to just have her just give a little.
Talk about things, Brianna.
If she cannot say, she can talk about it.
Yeah, man. Let's hear about it a little bit, Brianna. I'll give you 60 seconds.
Brianna, go ahead.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, Brianna.
So I'm a JNW ambassador. This is my first day. It has been a very amazing experience. It really helps you for like personal development, not only about the stipend per se, but personal development to help you with the leadership skills. It really helps you to meet persons and explore the world. So trust me, it's an amazing experience and it really helps me, it grows me. And yes, I would really recommend it to anybody.
All right, Brianna, awesome. We believe you. You sound very convincing.
Listen, and let me just tell you though, Mr. Lawrence, that not only is Brianna a first year ambassador on our junior program, I also have two team members here, Diamond King and Shabba.
You know that Brianna is from AYF too, right? I just putting out there, you know?
And I'm happy that you're able to bring that up too. And let me just tell you, Diamond King and Shabba Ford, both of them are now in our youth banking unit as full-time staff at JN. And they both came through the JNWay program. And if I must say, you had mentioned that they're high school students who are on this call. Now, Chevelle, she was a high school student the first time she heard about JNWay. And what she did was she followed us on Instagram. So she was kept in the loop with everything. And when she finished her first year at University of West Indies, Chevelle reached out and decided that, look, I'm going to be an ambassador. Chevelle was an ambassador for 2 years. She got to be the deputy chief ambassador for the entire program. Therefore, she was like the boss. And when she finished school, she is now employed here at JN. So if you're looking for a career opportunity, the Janeway program is definitely for you. But first, you must have a Janeway account. That's the initial thing. You can't be repping a brand if you don't have, that. And as an ambassador, it's $500 account that they're required to push. As I mentioned, the school savers for 0 to 17, it is $200 to open that account. And for the 18 to 34 year age range, it's $500 to open accounts. And we have our in-house youth banking representatives who can literally assist you to get in your accounts. It's almost like a personal banking officer. You don't have to go and wait in the bank.
Shanna,
this is what I'm talking about.
You see, because Brianna are our girl, everybody I got PH Brianna and said, set us up. Okay, so Brianna, your phone I got blaze up.
Yes,
because
so Brianna should be
going to Brianna.
She should definitely be meeting her target then. Now that we know that she's family from Adapter Youth.
Yeah, man. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you very much again, Shanna. You have made our Friday evening so much more enjoyable. And we are going to have some real wealthy AYF mentors and mentees. Brianna, we are going to message you like crazy. We're coming. All right. Unfortunately, we won't have a whole lot more questions because we are over 8 o'clock time. Thank you for the 4th and 5th time, Shanna.
You're most welcome.
I'm going to hand over now to the AWC Youth in Expression, led by Mandy and Marva. Marva and Mandy, over to you. I'm going to put some tools in the chat as we say good night and thank you very much to our presenter this evening, Shanna Kaye Wright Vaughn. Bless you, Shanna.
Good evening. Could I be made host? The AWC Youth in Expression page.